Hello and welcome to the Moonrise Human Design YouTube channel. We are so thrilled that you're here learning about human design from us today. In this YouTube video, you can expect to learn more about the reflector energy type in human design, which is the rarest energy type in this system. And we believe this will be a really valuable resource to learn more about these very unique beings.
Before we get into that, let me tell you about what we're doing here. So Moonrise is, of course, a YouTube channel. We have a podcast. We have lots of content, but it's really a community and it's a place where you can learn, where you can show up exactly as you are. Everyone's welcome, and come back into your heart, come back into your understanding of yourself, of your truth, of your authenticity. And we find that human design is a very effective vehicle to facilitate that growth and that inquiry. We hope that human design can be used to expand your sense of understanding, acceptance, and love for yourself, as well as understanding, acceptance, and love for others. My name is Sam Pfotenhauer. I'm an embodiment coach, an intuitive, and a human design teacher and reader based in Austin, Texas.
My name is Nadia Last. I am a therapist and I am also a human design teacher. And we created Moonrise so that you could have ample resources and opportunities to dive deeply into this system, whether it's through our guidebooks that you can purchase, these personalized PDFs that are accessible on our website. We also teach human design training, which is in self-paced and live format. We also give individualized readings, and we love to teach about human design on our podcast, this YouTube channel, and on social media. So Sam, let's get into it. Let's start with what is an energy type?
So reflectors are an energy type. There are 5 different energy types. That's how we define it. And there's a manifestor, a reflector, a projector, a manifesting generator, and a generator. We have episodes on each type. It's very comprehensive, so you can go explore all of them. The energy type is like your energetic signature. It's like it describes how at a core level, at the very foundational level, your energy, your inner world moves and interacts with the outer world. So energy types talk about our role. It talks about our core gifts. You have many gifts and many in the human design chart, and of course many that can't be captured by a chart. But your energy type is like essential. It's kind of the essential lens that you can view everything else from. It tells how you impact people, how people impact you, and what you're able to contribute powerfully and easily. So when you know your energy type, that helps you come back into a flow. It helps you come back into a truth. And when we're in our authentic selves and our truth, that's how we find flow, and that's where life gets to become really juicy and easeful and smoother. And when things get bumpy, you feel a lot more resourced to help that. So if you're interested in human design, energy type is the place to start.
Absolutely. And we think that this video today is so valuable because reflectors are so rare. According to human design, they are only 1% of the population. And what makes a reflector chart and thus the energy type so rare, when you pull up the chart, you'll see that every center or chakra, wheel of energy shape in the chart. When you look up a human design chart, it's made up of these triangles and these squares. And you'll see on this chart, if it's a reflector chart, that all of them are white. That means that they're open or undefined is the language that human design uses. What that means is that reflectors are very open and porous beings. If you're a reflector, you are meant to constantly be taking in and becoming wise about the energy that you feel from the people around you. When you walk into a room as a reflector, you are more keyed into the energy of everyone all at once rather than an individual. And you can't really help but take in the energy around you. So as a reflector, we really want to empower you today to recognize when energy feels slightly off. Even if the people that you're with aren't reading that same off energy, you will likely be able to feel shifts, very subtle nuances in energy more quickly than most because of how open you are.
So when we say the energy is off or you can sense the energy, I'm going to give you some examples of what sort of information that is. So one, there's just like an energy frequency that might be hard to fit into these categories, but you also might be picking up on the emotions of the space. Are people frustrated or angry? Are they really joyful? No one has to necessarily say anything. You might not even be able to read it on their body language for you to pick up on it. Their identities and what their relationship with their self is, their fear and anxiety anxiety, their stress, their creation energy, and what they're moving forward to, their motivation, the way that they literally conceptualize things, or the thinking, their expression. Reflectors have the ability to feel into all of this energy. That's what comes from the different centers, because when a center is white, you can pick up and absorb more information. And so reflectors have much less barrier. You, of course, will still have your own energy, you have your own identity, but the barrier between you and others, it's like you can feel and see and sense in ways that the rest of us simply can't.
Yeah, it's quite rare to have this experience. And when I'm doing a reading for a reflector, first of all, whenever I see a reflector chart pop up when I'm pulling someone's chart, I get so excited. It's an exciting feeling because you're so unique. We are all unique, but this energy type is so unique, and there are many facets of this system. But the other piece is that you just operate slightly differently than other people. Because you're taking in so much all the time, it can be quite overwhelming at times, and learning how to realize and recognize this energy is not mine. This emotion, this thought, this pressure, this fear, whatever it is that you're taking in, sometimes it can be amazing energy, like a surfer. You can catch a wave and it's the perfect wave and you're able to follow it into shore. And sometimes it's really turbulent and it's like, whoa, this does not feel good to ride this wave. I'm actually just going to respectfully and with love just let this energy move out of my system. As a reflector, I think I like to tell people you're sort of like this sacred, why can't I think of the word, windmill, where you're taking in water all the time. No matter where you are, whatever body of water the windmill is around, it's taking in the water. Taste test, sample. You are here to be wise. Is this water dirty? Is this water mucky? Is this water beautiful and clean and pure? And allow yourself to move accordingly.
So where the reflector's gifts come in is what they can do with that information. But to be able to do things with that information, you have to be able to, one, realize that you're taking it in. That can be a huge thing. Or if you never knew and you were never taught things like a mind-body connection or energy management or how to sense what I'm feeling or validated, and that you could go into a space and feel into how other people are feeling or thinking or get information, then it's going to get confusing. But if you can start to split up, this wasn't mine, those emotions weren't mine, those thoughts weren't mine, that pressure wasn't mine, that was of the space, then that's where the fun comes in, and that's where like a lot of the gifts come in, because it's like, oh, that's really valuable information. I now suddenly know all this stuff about this place, and I can observe so much more that no one else did. And that's one of the reflectors' like core gifts. So we often in human design, if you've ever engaged with our human design material, you might hear the reflector of you're supposed to be in the center of the community, reflecting back how we all feel, which is really cool, a little bit heady and abstract. And so the way I like to think of it as you're meant to be in community. You're meant to be in your organization. Like maybe you work at a company or at a larger corporation, in your community, like your friends and your family, in your family system, in your household, in your location, and sense where is everybody thriving. So you can notice, like reflectors can literally feel like, wow, that person is a phenomenal manager. Everyone who works under them is doing really well. There's a sense of direction and energy and motivation. There's not arbitrary stress. We're over here, look at this part of this company, and it's really frazzled. Every time I go and engage with them, everybody's anxious. They're really reactive. There's a lot of emotional up and downs, or a lot of group think. That's what a reflector is able to absorb. And so they have this ability, it's kind of this at the center of the community, reflecting what we all feel. When we say reflect, it's mean take it in, absorb it, and then speak and express it.
Absolutely. There are really sacred roles for our reflectors to play, because reflectors are tuned into the energy of whatever collective they are a part of, which is quite a rare experience. And many of us listening to this video right now will never be able to fully recognize what that experience is like, to sit in the middle of a room like a yoga teacher and sense everyone in the room at once. A lot of reflectors I know, just as by happenstance, and we'd love to know in the comments if you relate to this, but a lot of reflectors that we know are yoga teachers, because there's something about feeling into the collective energy and then guiding it from that place of recognition.
Yeah, so like a yoga teacher could be like, okay, we're going to go to this, but I actually feel the class needs hip openers. So I'm going to shift the choreography, and that's what we're focused on. Reflectors therefore then have there's this wisdom keeper quality. So there can be this mystical nature of reflectors, but there's also just at a very functional level, they're excellent observers. They're excellent guides, because they can see. and they can direct what needs to happen to get this system functioning well, to get back to thriving, to get to a place where people are feeling really well. You can more easily spot where the gaps are and what isn't doing well, and then even that information alone. What else are some core reflector gifts?
Some core reflector gifts are being basically a reflector is a mirror. And so you are mirroring for whoever it is that you are sharing with, like, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm sensing from you. I remember when I first launched my podcast, I had a reflector friend that I shared my first episode with, and she closed her eyes as she listened, and she could sense where I started speaking where I wasn't like quite sure of myself. She's like, I almost sense people's auras and colors. And it's just a very cool gift as you learn to trust what you're sensing. And I'm using the word sensing here because it is a fully embodied and immersive experience for a reflector. You're picking up on all different types of energy. So I would say a gift that's here is being, a leader or the right hand person to the leader and saying, here is what I sense, here's what I'm feeling.
Reflectors have the ability to develop a lot of emotional intelligence because they can pick up on so much, and because of this empathic quality, you can use that to develop your sense of intelligence in others. They can be very dynamic and adaptable. And I like to think of reflectors as they have this ability to try on a lot of different identities and a lot of different ways of being. So I find that almost more than any other type, reflectors can be very, very different because they have this ability to influence and be shaped by their environment and community.
Which brings us to the reflector aura. So as defined by human design literature, every energy type has an aura, which is a way that your energy extends a few feet beyond your body and how people experience you. The reflector aura, because it's so open, because all of these centers are open and they're receiving so much information and energy, their aura is designed to be what's called sampling. So similar to the windmill, that's kind of like taste testing and sampling the water that's coming through for the water quality. As a reflector, you are intended every single day to be sampling, just sampling. And what's interesting about the energetic aura of the reflector is that there actually is designed to be a bit of a protective layer. You're not fully immersed and merged with another person's energy. You are designed to be a bit protected and sort of sense where another person begins and you end.
So there is this almost like Teflon on a rain jacket, how like it kind of keeps things out. So even though you're very open, there's some protection there because otherwise it would just be way too intense and be much harder. So you have the ability to go in and sample. Now, you will still need to learn how to manage your energy. And so this may have been something that you were taught as a child or an adolescent. Most people weren't. And so to really support yourself as a reflector, learning how to ground and learning how to, what human design calls empty out, is really useful. So this is just discharging the energy that you picked up from the day that it's not yours. My formula for this is is like the intention of, I want to release everything I picked up during the day that's not mine. Any of the stress from rush hour, from work, other people's anxiety, even high emotions, it's not mine, and I'm going to release it with love. And so you set the intention, and then you can do like basically any activity, but anyone that gets you in the body. So that could be a shower or bath, a walk. Movement is really helpful. Taking a stick of Palo Santo or incense and breathing in, envisioning the smoke clearing your energy body, but taking a moment, a few minutes on a very regular basis to just kind of release and separate so you can come back to, what do I feel like? What's true for me in this moment?
Yes. And we can all benefit from that practice of discharging the energy we pick up on. But for reflectors, it's especially important. And there's a very interesting relationship with reflectors and nature. We are all connected to nature. We are nature. Our bodies are part of nature. But reflectors, there's something about being in the energy of nature alone in solitude where you're able to fully discharge all of the energy. You're no longer in a city place. You're no longer around other people's energy. If you can really be in nature, and a lot of reflectors really resonate with water as well as a way of just sort of like washing off literally and metaphorically all the energy that you pick up on.
Yes. So Nadia, should we go into the reflector strategy?
Absolutely. Take it away.
Okay. So first, defining what a strategy is. So strategy is a really key human design vocab word, a term you'll hear people say a lot, strategy and authority. And so strategy is the way that you can work with your design. It's the way that you live in alignment. It's the way that you honor the way your energy works. And so it's like the action that you take. So all these gifts can actualize. You don't really have to do a lot as a reflector. I mean, there are these practices or any energy type, but if you can align with your strategy, that's kind of the action that you do. So the reflector strategy is to wait a lunar cycle. So a lunar cycle just means the time. So it's a 29.5 day cycle. And it's basically waiting for any big decisions until you've had a full lunar cycle.
Because you're a reflector, as a reflector, you're picking up on so much energy. If you make impulsive decisions, if you feel rushed or you feel kind of conditioned by other people, you're going to make a decision based on perhaps the energy of that moment that you're picking up on from others. So by waiting and really observing what sticks around over time, you will be able to recognize, this is me. This isn't just the influence of all the energy that I felt from others or the pressure that I felt. This is truly innate to me, and it stuck around. And for many of us hearing, you have to wait 29 and a half days to make a decision. We're like, wait, what? For a lot of reflectors hearing this, at some level, again, this is a system of energy and of body resonance, your body will likely feel like, yes, I don't have to rush. I can be at my own timing.
Yes, and that's like the gift here. So you give yourself the space. Every day you're being influenced, we use the word conditioned a lot in human design, by things around you. So by people, by your roommates, your partner, your family and friends, your coworkers. It's not necessarily bad, but they just have their own energy and you're picking it up and you're extra sensitive to it. So you're picking up more of it than they're probably picking it up of yours. You also have your environment, and then you have the astrological weather. And basically that just means that because we have a system here that's based off of birth time, we look at the impacts of the planetary movements, and reflectors are particularly sensitive and attuned to those impacts. And so when you give it a full lunar cycle, you give the moon an entire time to complete its circle, you have the space to see like, okay, what is consistent within me and what might be an influence from someone else. A good sign is just like, okay, every day you wake up and you're starting to feel more settled about what you should do. And you can do this with anything. So you could have a big purchase you want to make and you put it in your phone. Okay, 29 days from now, you set a reminder. If I still want it then, I'll make that purchase. If you still want to leave the relationship then, or apply for a new job, or, make a move, you'll have that and you'll have a greater sense of confidence that it's aligned for you. Now, Nadia, what if you can't wait a lunar cycle?
Yeah, practically, it's not possible to always wait a lunar cycle I would say for big decisions like the ones that you just mentioned around career or relationship decisions or location. It's important to really wait out even a few lunar cycles. Yeah. However, for sort of like smaller decisions rather, that need to be made on a day-to-day basis, there is this sort of like plan B that human design outlines for reflectors. And that's what's called sounding board authority. What that means is that as a reflector, you are very impacted by the people or the environment that you're around. So find the right people in the right places that feel like you, the people that you really trust, and say, hey, I'd like to talk out a decision right now. I actually don't want any advice. I don't want to be impacted by your energy. I want to be able to hear the quality of my voice as I talk this decision out loud so that I can sense what my truth is for me. It's not a surefire way to make a decision that's always in alignment as a reflector. Of course, there's always energy you're taking in, but it will help steer you moment by moment through a decision of, what do I want for lunch today? Can I just talk out, this chili versus this salad that we're considering?
Or I'm thinking about taking a job, but I have to accept the offer in 2 weeks. And so the sounding board authority, it comes from a different type, but there's some core similarities between reflectors and that type. So it works. Like in practice, it often is a tool that we'll hear from reflectors who are in the human design world saying like, this really helps me. And so the idea is it's not just about talking it out, but it's about assembling what I like to call your board of advisors, your council. So trusted people in your life who you can talk with, but they're diverse in how they would advise you or their energy or what they prioritize. And again, you're not asking for opinions here, but still, like, everybody has their own energy and you're like, these people wouldn't approach things exactly the same. The key is that you feel comfortable expressing and like being in their field and being around them. And then you talk with them, and then even just being in a presence, human design is a system where we talk about auras. So we believe that you're impacted by people's aura, their energy body, even if you're not like actively talking to each other or they're not giving your opinion, you're still kind of being impacted them. And then as you're talking to them, you'll get new information, you'll hear yourself, you'll feel differently. And that will start to help you clarify. You'll notice that, okay, when I'm around this and I talk about it this way, it doesn't feel as right. But when I shift it in this way, it actually feels a lot better. It gets you closer and closer to your decision.
Totally. Yeah. So that sounding board authority, one way that you can ask for that in your life is, I want to talk this out loud and I'd like you to reflect back to me. As a reflector, you can really reflect. To love a reflector is to reflect things back to them as well that you see in them. But hey, I felt your tone of voice shift as you talked about this thing, or I felt a lot of passion as you talked over here, or this felt kind of out of left field. And so it can be helpful to assemble your perspective that way as a reflector, is just talking it out. Which leads us to what's called the not self in human design, which is the way that you know that you're out of alignment or you made a decision not quite following your strategy.
Yeah, so for a reflector, the not self is disappointment. And this is, disappointment can feel differently. It can feel like the sense of, I'm jaded, that's not what I want to happen, nothing's really going right. I've heard reflectors say, like, I actually feel frustrated and kind of annoyed, like everything that they do annoyed me. And I just am getting like, life isn't unfolding in a way that feels good. I'm having a hard time trusting it. It's like, this is not what I'm expecting to happen. And I'm just really let down by how everything is coming out.
Yeah. It's funny, as we talk about disappointment, I can feel us like, womp, womp, womp. Like, it's kind of that energy of, I had an expectation, a hope, a wish that it would go this way, and I feel disappointed because it's going this way. And the reason why your strategy plays into disappointment is that as you wait your lunar cycle, you are able to sort of like feel into a decision all the way around. And it's just an interesting kind of like interplay.
It helps you make wise decisions about things to avoid disappointment.
Yes.
And so you are more likely to experience disappointment. Let's say you get invited to a trip and you just say yes right away and you don't wait. You go on the trip and it's just like, it wasn't what you expected. It was a lot more expensive than you thought. You didn't really vibe as much with the other people. You thought it was going to be more relaxing, but it's actually super high energy. And it just kind of left you disappointed.
Yes.
Actually, maybe if you waited in that lunar cycle and gave yourself more space, you would have realized that. You would have gotten clarity around what it was going to be and then protected you from that disappointment by choosing not to go in the first place.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's a great way of saying that, Sam. Which brings us into, how does a reflector know that they're in alignment?
So this is called the signature in human design. And the signature is the sign of you're on the right path. Keep going. Like everything is flowing smoothly. It's kind of the emotion to look for as a helpful benchmark. And the reflector signature is surprise.
Yes.
And I like to think of surprise as you're delighted by life. Like you're waking up and you're like, what's going to happen today? And you don't know because life is always a mystery, but the mystery feels pleasant and delightful and wonderful, and like, how am I going to be surprised today? It's not that you're expecting to be like, boo, all the time. Or like, you don't want to be super surprised every month. Like, am I going to have money? Like, an income going to come in? Like, is my partner going to stick around? Like, we don't mean that sort of up and down. We mean this kind of like, I'm open to the mystery of life. I trust life and I trust that it's going to navigate me, and the things around me, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised and delighted by what's happening. There's some unknowns here, but I feel really good about them.
I love that, Sam. The way you described that was so beautiful. It reminds me, it makes me think of this feeling of allowing. As a reflector, because you're such a receptive being, you are receiving so much all the time. To be in alignment as a reflector is to be in that state of receiving in a way that's just like, I allow everything to be as it is. And if I feel someone's energy and it's like, oh, that doesn't quite feel good, I allow that to just move right on through. And that allows you to be in spaces and in places and in relationships that continue to feel better and better and better. And one thing I really want to empower a reflector to do, if something doesn't feel good to you, move. You are not a tree. You do not have to stay rooted in place, in location, in relationship, in a job. Move. Allow yourself to be in a different place and environment.
Yes. Reflectors are very, very sensitive to their environment. So if you're in the right place, You'll find the right people, the right opportunities, everything will flow a lot better. But if something isn't right, then that can like block all the other things from flowing well. And this could be small things like the bar that you're gonna hang out at that Friday night and like where you're gonna go to dinner, something just doesn't feel right. You're allowed to be like, hey guys, could we like go to the other one across the street? Because everything will flow better. But it can also be really big things like your city or the like apartment or house that you live in. So if you're sensing something's not right here and I don't really know why, change it. It's important to change it.
Totally. We were doing an interview on our podcast with a set of reflectors, and one of them said, you know, I can sense when there's clutter in a closet behind me where the closet door is shut and everybody else is unaware of it, but I can almost sense the dysfunction or the chaos. And so a reflector environment is very important. And you might find that you're more attuned to your physical surroundings than others, but lean into that. Allow your space to feel good and feel beautiful in whatever way makes sense for you.
Before we close, we just want to say a few points that are important to reflectors. The first one is that reflectors often experience this feeling like they're going to be forgotten. Nadia, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, because a reflector, it goes along with disappointment of the reflector. You're such a receptive being. There's a sense of like, will you remember me? Will you know that I'm here, even though I'm not creating necessarily as big of a splash, or I'm like trying to get a word in edgewise, or I'm trying to overcompensate for this receptivity that I'm designed to experience. And so that feeling of like, will anyone remember that I'm here as a reflector is a core experience.
And the thing is that reflectors actually do naturally draw attention to themselves. People naturally want to know what you have to say.
Yes.
You naturally have this ability to feel into things. It's not that you're necessarily meant to be the loudest, though you might be, because reflectors have very dynamic personalities and embody the whole array of emotional spectrum. But you will naturally call in that attention, especially from the people that are right for you. They'll notice you and they'll value your perspective. I've heard of reflectors who work at big companies and it's like, I have all these observations and no one seems to care. And that can happen because people have to be ready to hear the reflector reflection. They have to be ready to hear what they're seeing. Not everybody is ready to be seen or ready to hear like, okay, what do you see in our company and what changes need to make, because then they have to make them. And that can be a really frustrating process, but also notice who does see you. Who does value what your observations, and continue to invest into those relationships.
Beautifully said, Sam. We love our reflectors. Thank you so much for being here. We want to build reflector community as well, because you all are so rare. So please put in the comments whatever resonates with you. If you want to share any piece of your experience, we'd love to engage with you all there. And if you want to dive more into human design content, we would love to study alongside you. You can join our human design training. We run a couple live cohorts of this every year. We also offer a self-paced version of this. You can download a guidebook if that's something that's interesting to you, a personalized report. We also offer individualized readings, and we'd love to keep the conversation going on our podcast. So you can join us for IRL human design conversations there.
If you just want more, Nadia and I each have our own individual podcast where we talk about personal development and spirituality outside of human design. Mine is called Wild River. Hers is called The Current. Join us there. We'd love to have you.